I never thought I'd see the day someone tried to tow my cows like they were junked cars from a Walmart parking lot. But that's exactly what happened. Two trailers backed up right to my pasture, flashing lights and all, and before I could even get my boots on, my herd was being loaded up like scrap. And the sheriff? He looked me straight in the eye and said, "Sir, your livestock has been impounded under HOA ordinance." The hell it was. My name's Luke McAllister. I'm 42 years old, fourth-generation rancher, born and raised on Red Butte Ranch, a 200-year-old stretch of land on the dry skirts of East Verde, New Mexico. It's not just land, it's legacy. My great-grandfather built this place from desert and sweat. So when I stood barefoot on that gravel road, screaming at the top of my lungs, "This is my land," and got nothing but a bureaucratic shrug in return, I knew something deeper was going on. And let me tell you, I wasn't wrong. See, things started changing about 10 years ago when developers showed up. They built a subdivision less than a mile from my southern fence line. Called it Mesquite Ridge Estates. Sounded fancy enough. At first I didn't care. Hell, I had nearly 350 acres between me and them. Let them have their manicured lawns and golf carts. I figured we could coexist. But I was wrong. The trouble started the day Sandra DeWitt moved in, president of the HOA, self-appointed guardian of neighborhood standards, and the kind of woman who introduced herself with a clipboard before she said her name. She came right up to my fence one afternoon, squinting at my barn like it personally offended her sensibilities. "You must be Mr. McAllister," she said with that smile people wear when they're about to tell you you're doing something wrong. "We'll be holding a community standards meeting this Thursday. It's mandatory for all adjacent property owners." I told her point blank, "Ma'am, I ain't part of your community. This is Red Butte Ranch. We're not under any HOA." She didn't flinch. "Well," she said, still smiling, "all properties bordering Mesquite Ridge are subject to annexation clauses in our charter. It's for the greater good. Uniformity matters." That's when I realized I wasn't just dealing with a nosy neighbor. This woman had plans, and I was in her way. A week later, the letter started. Official letterhead. HOA seal. Charges for unauthorized agricultural structures, excessive livestock, and this one cracked me up, unsightly visual elements visible from the community walking path. Even though the closest thing to a walking path near my ranch was a dusty cow trail, I ignored them. Figured they'd get tired. They didn't. Soon, the fines piled up, $1.50, $200, $700, nonsense charges about noise, fencing, and livestock odors. I showed the stack of letters to my buddy Jesse, who runs the local hardware store. He spat out his dip laughing. "You ain't under no HOA, man. That's just them blowing smoke." That's what I thought too, until I got a certified letter from the county. The HOA had filed a lien on my ranch for unpaid fines totaling $13,860. Turns out, they submitted zoning paperwork claiming my land had been absorbed into Mesquite Ridge boundaries. No vote. No consent. Just ink on paper. I called every office I could think of: county assessor, zoning board, land records. Everyone passed the buck. "It's a civil matter," they said. "Take it up with the HOA." But here's the kicker. I never signed anything. Never agreed to be part of anything. 3 weeks later, the cows were gone. 2 trailers. Hired by Southwest Livestock Compliance, citing HO Regulation 47B. I tried to stop them. That's when the sheriff showed up, hand on his belt, cool as a breeze. Told me if I interfered, I'd be arrested. And there she was, Sandra, in her little golf cart, sipping a sparkling water, smirking like this was all just a formality. "You didn't attend the meetings," she said. "You didn't follow the rules. Actions have consequences, Mr. McAllister." Then she waved at my cows as they were driven off like she was at a damn parade. That night, I found a for sale sign planted at the end of my driveway. The sign wasn't mine. It read, Mesquite Ridge Realty LLC. That's when it hit me. They weren't just trying to find me into submission, they were trying to take my land. I drove straight to see my Uncle Ray, who lives on the north end of the ranch. Vietnam vet, 75. Still chops wood every morning and curses the government before breakfast. When I told him what happened, he didn't say a word. Just got up, walked into his shed, and came back with a metal lockbox. Inside? The original land deed. Signed by President Ulysses S. Grant himself. 1872. Official seal. No one was touching this land. "We're going to the clerk's office," he said. "At the courthouse." We pulled every document we could find. Turns out, the HOA had slowly been buying up tiny utility easements and water rights from absentee landowners nearby, creating just enough overlap to argue adjacency and file annexation claims. It was calculated. Legal bullying. Back at the ranch, they padlocked my well. Red sticker. Condemned due to contamination. Another HOA order. I hadn't had a drop of issue with that well in 20 years. I called a private lab. Paid out of pocket. The water was cleaner than bottled Evian. But the HOA had already filed an injunction preventing me from using it. 6 weeks minimum before the court would even hear it. They were starving me out. Quietly. Legally. That's when I called in backup. I gathered every rancher, every neighbor that hadn't sold out yet. We met at the old Grange Hall, folks in overalls, dusty boots, old hands with sun-baked skin. Turns out, I wasn't the only one. One couple had their chicken coop cited for excessive rural odor. Another was fined because their fence lacked aesthetic uniformity. Sandra wasn't just coming for me. She was coming for all of us. We formed a coalition, called it the Red Butte Land Alliance. Sounded fancy, but we had teeth. I took our case to a reporter from the local news, Amanda Flores. She came out with a camera crew, interviewed Miss Hattie, 84 years old. Cried on camera about losing her garden because roses don't fit the community brand. That segment aired the next night. HOA versus Heritage, the battle for Red Butte. It went viral. And just when things started turning in our favor, they struck back. Early one morning, I woke to the sound of bulldozers. They were coming from my barn. The same barn my great-grandfather built by hand. No warning. No hearing. Just an emergency demolition notice, posted 30 minutes before. I ran out and stood in front of the machine. A deputy stepped forward. "Sir, step aside." "I will not," I said, voice shaking. "This barn's older than your badge." The bulldozer kept rolling. I pulled out my phone, hit record, and shouted, "This is private property. You are trespassing under a forged claim. I have not consented to HOA governance. Touch this barn, and I will sue every one of you." The bulldozer stopped. It was a standoff. And that's when Amanda showed up, camera rolling. That footage, me standing in the dust, holding that deed in one hand and a rusted branding iron in the other, ended up on every major network. Within 24 hours, the HOA was under investigation. Within 48, I was sitting across from an attorney from the state's AG office. "Mr. McAllister," he said, "you've uncovered something bigger than just one rogue HOA. What they're doing, it's land laundering. Fraud." 2 days later, the lien was lifted. My cows returned. The water use restriction rescinded. Sandra DeWitt, charged with 6 counts of fraud, 2 counts of property tampering, and 1 charge of criminal conspiracy. She disappeared before arraignment. Her house? Empty. But the story didn't end there. Because that same week, I found a forged document filed with the Land Commission claiming half my pasture had been sold to a shell company based in Nevada, signed under a power of attorney granted by my dead father. I swear, when I saw that signature, my knees buckled. The name on the document? Ethan DeWitt, Sandra's nephew. They tried to burn us out, lie us out, scare us out. But we're still here. Still fighting. You ever stare at a stretch of dirt and feel your entire family history hum beneath your feet? That's what this land is. Not just grass and fence posts, but memory, blood, and promise. They thought they could bulldoze that. They were wrong. So tell me, where are you watching from? Has anything like this happened in your town? Your family? Because this ain't just about Red Butte anymore. It's happening everywhere. Quiet. Strategic. Legal theft. Drop a comment below, share your story, and if you've ever tangled with an HOA. Tell me, who really owns the land? Them, or the people who work it? Because I've made my choice. And I'm not backing down.